June 8, 1647, the Puritan-controlled British Parliament banned Christmas, Easter, and other festivals known as holy days, according to the Ordinance for Abolishing Festivals. The reason they did this is because the Puritans, who controlled the British Parliament at this time, were trying to purify, hence the name Puritans, the Church of England of all Catholic practices. Puritans were a Protestant movement of legalistic Christians who hated the Catholic Church. And if you're familiar with the Church of England, or the Episcopalian Church, which is the Church of England in America, their practices are very similar to Catholicism. So, a century earlier, the Reformers, Martin Luther, John Calvin, Zwingli, and all the Reformers, when they broke away from the Catholic Church, they tried to eliminate all Catholic statues and art, Michelangelo, because they thought that was like worshiping idols or whatever. They would just, they tried to abolish that. Now, the next century, you had the Puritans try to abolish, basically attack our liturgical calendar. If you're not a Catholic and you're watching this, you observe Easter and Christmas because the Catholic liturgical calendar, which dates back to the 1st century, tells you when to observe these holidays. But in addition to Christmas and Easter, we have many holy days throughout the year. Basically, it takes us through the life of Jesus. It's beautiful. It reminds us week after week, month after month, year after year, the life of Jesus. And it's a beautiful rhythm of seasons. It's beautiful. It's one of the things that when I came back to the church that I learned that I fell in love with. It's definitely from God and definitely something beautiful and rich and deep. Well, the Puritans just seen it as Catholic, and they were so anti-Catholic they just wanted to get rid of this. No, in fact, the Puritans, when they came to America in 1659, they banned Christmas and Easter as well, in addition to banning Catholic priests. If you were a Catholic priest in New England at this time, the first time you got caught, they just banished you. You had to leave. But if you got caught in New England again, the penalty was death. Just for being a Catholic priest, they would kill you. And over the next few centuries, they stopped killing Catholic priests for being Catholics, but they wouldn't allow Catholics to own property or vote, because you couldn't vote if you didn't own property. So up until the 20th century, Catholics were very poor in this country, because if you didn't own property, it was hard to make a living. And if you couldn't support your children, the Protestant government would come in and take your children and give them to wealthy Protestant families, which would brainwash the kids and tell them Catholicism is nothing but paganism and witchcraft. And you still hear these ridiculous lies today in America. In fact, today there's still anti-Catholic, anti-Catholicism. I mean, you see it's rising its ugly head in politics. And I know I have some viewers that really get annoyed when I mix politics with religion, but sometimes it just blends, and I have to call it out. Like when Donald Trump appointed this awesome judge, Amy Barrett, you would think the left would be all excited. This is a woman who made herself up to the highest level, about to be made a federal judge. It's the first step before Supreme Court justice. And the Democrats blasted her religion. I was like, wow, this is something out of the past. Every Democrat on that panel was just blasting Catholicism. And I'll just give you one example, and you could even Google this. I'm not making this up. This seems ridiculous, but it's true. Democrat Senator Dianne Feinstein said this. I'll give you the exact quote. "Your dogma lives loudly in you, and that concerns us on this side." Meaning, you're a devout Catholic, and that gets us Democrats worried. Wow. Can you imagine a Republican saying that to a Muslim? They would go berserk. Their brains would explode right there on TV. It's amazing. And pray for Amy Barrett, because most experts think if Trump is reelected, she's going to be his next pick for the Supreme Court, which gets us one step closer to ending the horrible holocaust of abortion in America. So pray for Amy Barrett and pray for Donald Trump. Our Bible tells us we should pray for our leaders. So, and then even on taking it closer to home, this is kind of weird, and I don't know if this is what's happening, but pray for me as well. But if you're paying attention to what's happening on social media, YouTube and Twitter and Facebook is purging any conservative thought. You know, anything, they call it hate speech or offensive if it offends anybody. Even comedians, if they make a joke that offends somebody on the left, I mean, if you listen to Democrats, they can say the most vile things about our president, like amazing what they get away with, and they're not censored. But on the right, if you're conservative, they're being censored. I mean, it's like a purge. It's unbelievable. And recently, about a month ago, YouTube said that I had enough viewership, enough subscribers that I could be monetized, and they were going to review it. And honestly, I don't do this for the money. I got a full-time job. I just do this because I feel God's calling me just to share some of my experiences that He calls us, you know, all to do certain things for the kingdom. And this is one of the things I feel I've been called to do. So I really don't care about the money, but it was just interesting that I got recently got a email from YouTube, said they're reviewing my content because it may be offensive. And the only thing I can think of is I've given the Catholic view of homosexuality in the past, and I've given the Catholic view of abortion. And that's very offensive to 50% of this country that calls themselves liberals. And I guess YouTube is run by liberals, is from what I hear. So they may not monetize me. And I really don't care because, like I said, I have a full-time job, and I'm not doing this for the money. But there's guys like Steven Crowder, who's a comedian, who's been making a living since 2009 on this. He has like 3 million subscribers, and they just demonetized him because someone got offended about a joke he said. And he basically just does satire, humor, and he happens to be a conservative. So he makes, you know, when a liberal comes out and says they support socialism, he makes fun of that and in a funny way shows them why socialism is wrong. So anyway, anything conservative, whether it be Catholic, whether it be evangelical, is under assault now on social media. So please pray, and pray for our religious freedom in America, because not only is there anti-Catholicism raising its head on the Democrat side, but I've been hearing a lot of anti-Semitic. Even Alan Dershowitz, who's a liberal Democrat, said there's a bigger problem on the Democrat side of the aisle now with anti-Semitism than on the Republican side. I mean, you have Ilhan Omar saying the most anti-Semitic things, and her party won't condemn her. AOC, the same thing, and there's quite a few of them. It's getting scary. So this is why I like to give little history lessons, because if you don't know history, it repeats itself, a wise man once said. So anyway, God bless. Pray for our nation. Pray for our church. Let's make the church great again. God bless.